All right. Welcome, everybody, to this is episode 18, Career Development Plans. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday break. Here we are. We got Mel filling in. Say hi, Mel. And we got Rob and Jessica with us today. How was everyone's break?
Fantastic.
Nice, peaceful.
Mel was just showing us all the snow that they got in Dallas before on the pre-show. So hopefully her power doesn't cut off and the zombie apocalypse starts in Dallas. But hopefully she can stay with us the whole time. So welcome. So before we get kicked off on our show today, so we're going to be talking about career development plans, just Success Panda housekeeping. So first, I just want to pitch the Panda Pals community, where if you are new to Success Panda, head over to successpanda.io, become a member for as low as $10 a month or $100 a year, and you'll get access to all the features of Success Panda, and you'll be able to join our community. Also, if you're listening, we are now interested in taking pitches and sponsors for the show. So we're going to start reaching out and seeing if there are companies who want to sponsor the show. So if that's you and you're interested, reach out to me or Mel, and we're happy to get in touch. So without further ado, let's do some intros of our panel. So Mel's filling in right now for our guests, but Mel, if you want to go intro first, and then we'll do Rob and then Jessica.
Sure. I'm Melanie Labar. I've been in technology for the past 25 years, and I am now the community director for Success Panda, bringing engagement to our members. So I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Mel.
I am happy to introduce myself as well. So I'm Rob Zambito. I am, I guess the best way to summarize my background is a 3-time customer success leader, and I've been a full-time consultant for several years now. So I've worked probably with somewhere between 20 and 30 companies, helping them build and scale their customer success teams. A lot of times early stage, a lot of times for customer success teams that are struggling to sort of define and find their identity, we go through playbooks of everything post-sale. So onboarding, support, renewals, churn, expansion, that's a big focus, advocacy. Based in Boston. I don't always wear a tiara, but today is my birthday. So I figured, talking career development plans, we want to make everyone feel like royalty. So
there you go.
And a good audience or good company with you guys. So it's good to be here.
So Rob, did you happen to have a tiara already? Did you have to
borrow
it?
Actually,
I was thinking Burger King crown would have been
Yeah. Well, no, this is made out of real metal, but it didn't have a strap, so I had to make my own strap. What happened was 5 years ago, it was my 30th birthday, and someone said, my coworker said, she was like, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" And I was like, "Wear a crown." And she was like, "Ha, no, really, what do you want to do for your birthday?" I said, "Did I stutter?" And so I was totally kidding, but she showed up on my birthday with this crown, with this tiara. So I was like, all right, now I have to wear it. So I haven't worn it since then, but here we are.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Appreciate it.
All right, go ahead, Jessica.
Hi, everyone. Jess Morales. I'm based out of San Antonio, and I have been in customer success for right around 20 years. I have had a windy, very organic career path. So I'm excited to be here today talking about all the opportunities that there are to growing your careers and working in the different ways of customer success.
Awesome. No, yeah, I'm glad you're here. And I think this is a super salient topic, and a lot of people have this on their mind, especially as we roll into 2025. And I think we're going to have a great discussion. And to start off our discussion, why don't we each share how we got into customer success? And I'll go first. I had to kill a guy. No, it was no, it was I was doing I was working in client facing roles, and then I was asked by a friend to interview for a startup of 9 people. and he wanted me to be a director of customer success because I had experience running a company before, and they wanted someone who was entrepreneurial, and I didn't know what customer success was. I remember the first time Googling it. I saw some books, I saw some papers, and this was back in the day in 2016, right? But yeah, I eventually ended up taking that job and have been in customer success official since then. And kind of like how Jess said, it's a winding road in the field of customer success. So that was my experience. What about you, Jess?
So I actually started my career as a teacher, and I taught in South Phoenix for a long time, and I had a really very tough last year, and I decided I didn't want to be a teacher anymore, and that I quit at the end of the year with no plan over the summer, except that I would do anything except for teach. And I found this really lovely teeny French-based language learning company that was hiring professional trainers. And so I actually started in customer success as a professional trainer, and then kind of grew with organic team growth. I went through some acquisitions that allowed me the opportunity to grow and change. And then most recently, a lot of self-reflection and trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. But it's always been through, I was a CSM for a while, managed a team for a while. I've been in operations, and just always right now working in community, building communities and digital experience. So it's been fun to see the field of customer success grow and change, because I think it's given me a lot of opportunity to grow and change along with it.
Awesome. What about you, Rob?
Jess, I just wanted to mention a lot of the best CS folks I've hired are former teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Like the skills that make, I'm going to take this off, this is getting a little painful, a little heavy as the crown. Is that the phrase? I think that's the phrase. Anyway.
It is. But I will say, Jess, real quick, Rob, you still have the teacher outfit on, which is the glasses, right? So
it never, it's always a part of you. Yes.
I mean, is that not like, does not look like your kid's teacher? I mean, absolutely. It's always the glasses. But
yes.
And the
very
cardigan.
comfortable.
That's funny. Sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
Me personally, it depends where you define the starting point. I've called my roles some derivative of customer success for about 10 years now. But I like to tell people, I was doing the same fundamentals when I was a teenager, and I was waiting tables at a diner doing the graveyard shift. That was a crazy experience. But, you think about the fundamentals that make a waiter successful or a waitress successful. It's like making sure people achieve their value outcomes, making sure they, that they're engaged, that they're satisfied, that they get the product they're looking for, that they come back for more, that they refer their friends. Like, it's all the same fundamentals. So, but no, so actually I stumbled across calling myself customer success. I worked in what was a partner success role, basically helping restaurants market on our SaaS platform, which also involved just like eating an extraordinary amount of food. Because I had to taste test the food that they sold on our platform. Not good for my health, but so we called that partner success loosely. And then I, like, the first time I actually heard the term customer success was my first day, my next job, which turned out to be a transformative job for me. Because it was a really early stage scrappy company. My first day was at a conference, and this woman here in Boston, she came up to me. She was like, "What do you boys call yourselves? Customer success?" And I was like, sure. Okay. And lo and behold, it was the beginning of a career that I didn't anticipate, that I didn't realize I was like desperately looking for. I knew I was desperately looking for a career path, but I never knew that I would find my home in customer success. So lo and behold, a decade later, here we are.
Can we get that accent throughout this whole, do we have to tip or pay extra to get that to come back? It
comes organically. I don't know.
I know. Okay.
It's funny you said that you're from a waiter background, because when we were talking about Jess having a teacher background, the two backgrounds that I usually choose from are waiters and waitresses and teachers. So those have been the best customer success people, and from technical support, which that's where I came from. I was in technical support for several years and then moved into IT operations. And when our company was outsourced and I lost my job, a friend of mine said, you have project management, you have technical skills, you'd be really good at working with customers and bringing the journey through after, post-sales relationship management. And that's how I got into customer success.
Awesome. I also weren't you a server at Olive Garden? Was that you, Rob?
Not Olive Garden, but I do talk about Olive Garden a lot.
Okay, all right. Because I was also a server at Olive Garden, and I remember talking to someone who also was. So
I think we've probably talked about waiting tables before.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Good fundamentals.
It is. Alrighty. So we all come in through different different ways that we've gotten into customer success. I think that as we're here talking about the career development. So let me just ask you this question, and then we'll get into some more opinions and things like that. At the companies you've worked at, right? So it can be the current company or just past companies, whatever experience you want to draw on. How do you see organizations? How do they approach the career development for a CSM? Is it pretty linear? Can people jump around? Do they start CSM 1, 2, 3, and then just share with us what you've seen in your career. So Jess, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I've been with a few different companies who have done it different ways. Honestly, what I've seen, especially as I had some experience in the startup space, is just kind of a lack of definition. And so that's why I'm a super advocate for individual contributors defining what they want their own path to be and taking ownership of their own career path. Because if you're waiting for your manager or your organization to do it, a lot of times you just get kind of hung out to dry. In the company that I'm with now, it is very structured and there's a lot of structural opportunity. But I will say the managers here are also very tightly connected to their people and making sure that they're pursuing the path that's right for them. So there's a lot of good structure and opportunity and definition if someone is looking for it. But there's also a lot of flexibility and personalization in what they're doing. But I would say that's kind of a diamond in the rough from my experience.
Cool. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I think the lack of definition that you pointed out, Jess, is really accurate. And it's actually like one of the core challenges I think we're having at the heart of our industry right now is like my sister's an actuary, polar opposite. She had this exact track that she followed with these exact milestones and exact exams that she had to take to get, and this is like the total opposite, where it's like the Wild West. We're kind of just winging it. I mean, the most common progression that I see is there's the entry level point is like a CSR or a CSA, which is kind of like, junior level customer success role. A lot of times that role is quite reactive in nature. And there's a lot of debate about, the role of reactive work in customer success. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but, then that matures into a CSM role, which often looks like moving from owning things like tickets or tactical items, like maybe onboarding, to moving full on books of business, or to owning full on books of business. A lot of times that then progresses into either like a team lead type role or like a senior CSM role, or as a company evolves, maybe it's like owning a certain segment, like an enterprise segment or a digital segment. So there's a lot of little branches. And then team lead, manager, director, VP, SVP, CCO, is that management branch. But yeah, there's not full uniformity in our industry yet.
Yeah. And I'm sure, like you said, since you're a consultant, you're dealing with a lot of different companies. You have a pretty informed perspective on how each one of these companies is kind of either laying out clearly or maybe not so clearly, right? The career path for when people are doing. Cool. What about you, Mel?
Lack of uniformity, lack of direction, lack of, what actually is customer success. And that's what I have done, is kind of put some structure around it. A lot of individuals that I've come into they didn't know exactly what they wanted to do and kind of landed in a role. They come from technical support, or they came from, product support. And so trying to make sure that each individual knew what they actually wanted to do and kind of put structure around that. So if they started, I tried to put in like a CSA if they weren't very in tune with their customers, so that they could learn a little bit and put some more development within that type of role. Then go into a CSM, senior CSM, an executive CSM, where they were, one person per customer, so that they were more specialized. And then going into management. A lot of people don't want to go into management. I know, Jess, you're going to speak with that. But going up from a team lead to a senior manager of customer success to a director. But it's really kind of knowing your audience, knowing your industry, knowing the customer base that you have, what's your ideal customer profile, and how you can more stimulate your team to make sure that your customers are having the best successful outcomes.
So a question that had come to my mind, and this is just quick for all three of you. So when Rob was talking about having a CSA, customer success associate or representative, right? So this is kind of the entry level. Are you all seeing, either companies you've worked at or in the market or people within your network, are you seeing that those are typical in every company? Because to me, I feel like kind of that CSM role is kind of the entry level. A lot of companies still don't have, we'll say, more junior roles than a CSM, which is owning the book of business. They don't have a CSR. They don't have a CSA. What's your take on that? Anybody can jump in.
Figure I could jump in just since I'm the one who mentioned it. I think it's becoming more typical. Okay. And I think it is partially a result of like the times we're in right now, where if you put a job posting up, you will get like 1,000 applicants in no time. And so there's a force for more granularity. And it's like I think it like does a good service to the industry to create this level of definition, because if you're, a well-paid enterprise CSM and you just see a role called CSM on LinkedIn, like you're like, well, I don't really know if I would be a good fit for that. I'm like, I have a career at doing like renewals and upsells and expansions, and I'm really a closer. And then you see this role that's like a CSM, it might be a good fit. But if you see CSA or CSR, you might more intuitively say like, okay, that like I can confidently say that it's not, a role for my seniority, or vice versa.
Right.
I've had to actually create roles for a CSA or a pooled CSM because they were failing in being that individual CSM for the organization. They showed some spark, but they just weren't there yet. So we created roles that they could kind of learn and kind of soak up what was going on. And then like I had one guy that was there when I got there who was petrified to be in front of a customer. So we put him in a role that was more digital, and so that he could gain his confidence and understand what we were delivering to the customer. The same with some people who we put them in a more pooled, where it was a group. It wasn't assigned directly to a customer, just because they just didn't have what it needed to be to push them over the line.
Yeah, and I'd agree with both of those. I think kind of in the historic, more established spaces, it really was like just CSMs. But as the industry has grown, Rob, like you said, the job description of a CSM has such a range now that I think it was just a natural growth of trying to segment what the skills are and get more targeted applicants to the roles. I've also seen, especially Mel, like you mentioned, in newer teams, when we don't really have a structure, we only have one person. A lot of times it is that kind of reactive space that the person starts in until we build a customer base. And so, what I've seen is the CSA is kind of the initial CS team member, and then it grows up around them as the customer base grows.
Yeah. No, that's super interesting. So let's transition into a topic that's similar to this, but perhaps we can talk through, let's just keep it to either 3 or 4 levels. And then just observations of when you're going through a career journey, what are kind of the skill sets that you would need to maybe master is too strong of a word, but just be proficient in, right? You're proficient in the skill set for, we'll just say, entry level, then we'll just say senior, and then we'll say director, manager, and then we'll just say executive. Like, what do you think like 1 or 2, or if you have multiple skill sets that you think that would need to be mastered, what would those be? I hope that question made sense. It did in my own brain, but coming through the microphone, it may not have. So whoever wants to open up.
Jess, do you want to take this, or I have something I could share if not?
Yeah, you go ahead and share, and then I'll add color.
So I've been working on refining a skills rubric that CSMs can use, that hiring managers can use, and I would love feedback on this. So the 6 buckets of skills that I have is communication and relationship skills, sales and persuasion skills. I feel like that is probably typically number 1 for many CSMs. Technical and problem-solving skills, data analysis skills, time management skills, and organizational skills. So I think, like I said, of those, the one that matters most, or the ones that matter most, do, like, in large part depend on, like Jess was saying, the stage of the company that you're at. And then also, like, I've been working on something else, like I'm calling it the 5 personas of customer success. So, like, so what persona does your CS team embody? Is your CS team very commercially focused? Right. Is your CS team very tactically focused and potentially reactive in nature? Is it does your team care about customer value outcomes more than even your own company's outcomes? Like, those are all different.
Yeah.
So I can't say one size fits all. A certain skill set matters.
Yeah.
Most.
What maturity is your CS org too? Right. I mean, that's kind of what you're getting at.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. Maturity. And I think even more broadly, like, what is the charter of the CS team? What's the purpose? Mm-hmm. What's the mission? What's the value to the company and to the customer?
Well, everyone knows the answer to that, Rob. It's the annoy the hell out of our customers. And
yeah, exactly.
No, of course not. But yeah, no, I think the rubric, yeah. I mean, that's good to know. Mm-hmm. Are you sharing that with us? Is this a reveal?
I mean, sure.
Okay. All right. So Jess, what do you think?
So I look at skills just a little differently. I actually coach my team on what I call 3 equally honorable career paths. And so leadership is the first one. And I think Rob listed a lot of important leadership skills. But I call the leadership path like looking up. So you're looking kind of up at skills that are new. Maybe I think capacity planning and budgeting, like, these are things that as an individual contributor, I'm not necessarily responsible for, but the skill set for leadership is very different than those items. The second equally honorable path I call individual greatness. And so this I call like our people that we know are the best CSM that I have on my team, but maybe just isn't looking for management. They don't want to do those management level activities. And so the skills there that we really focus on are self-advocating, really recognizing how to brand myself and get out in the world, presenting at workshops, publishing, inside the organization, networking. So just, again, a different skill set than the leadership path is. And the third equally honorable path I call work-life balance. And so this is the people who maybe just got a promotion and want to become the best at what they're doing now, but they're not looking at the next rung on the ladder or the next step as an individual contributor. Maybe they just had a baby or they're caring for their families. And so the skills I'm looking for with those type of contributors are, it's not a coasting path, but it's a speed and accuracy, right? So they're really making sure they're getting things done the right time, really well, the first time. And so just kind of identifying the direction that they want to go before I identify the skills that they need to grow is important to me and my team members. And the other important thing that we highlight there is it changes. You get to a point of like wanting to be a leader, you pursue the leadership path, and then you get to a point where you're like, some of us get to a point where we're like, I've gone as far as I want to go, and now I want to be an exceptional individual contributor, or I really want to focus on being great at what I'm doing. And so I think that conversation is really important to be having as an individual contributor, making sure you're having that with yourself, and then advocating for those skills or that direction with your leadership.
Go ahead, Mel. Do you have something you want to add?
I love what Rob has to say, and I love what Jess had to say. I actually look for a curiosity in the person, like that they want to know what's going on. They want to know the product. They want to know that customer. That they just have a sense of like, I want to know more information about whatever they're in, like the person, the customer, the product. So they have to want to learn. I am very heavily technical, and so I want to see some level of technical skills, whether they come in from technical support or they want to learn the product, or they show some high technical aptitude. That's important. And then persuasion, because if they can tell me, get me interested in them to be hired, they're going to be able to persuade that customer in terms of upselling, renewals, taking on a risk to take the product somewhere else, problem solving skills, the ability to think about what problems they're trying to solve, and why that customer is choosing that product and what success means to them. So that curiosity and that persuasion will be good for them as they come in as a CSM. As they want to learn, just talked about it a little bit, is if they show a leadership skill amongst the team, then you can kind of see if they want to go forward or not. If they want to, I have CSMs that have worked, that's all they want to do is they love working with the customer. They love understanding what their customer does, and they want to stay there for the rest of their lives because they get great joy and great fulfillment out of that.
Yeah. I have someone I know who was a former boss who this person took an IC role after being in management after, I don't know, like 15, 20 years, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I just remember the conversation we had, and he just was like, Brad, I just want to be left alone with my customers. I don't want to have to deal with, the budgets and then having to manage the people. I was like, I'm really good at what I do. And this is like the next question that I have for the group, which is, why is it, and I agree with Jess, what your analysis is. There's IC roles, right, that you can kind of move up and you have individual greatness. And then there's the traditional being a people leader, right? And then there's just the people who they understand this is what I'm good at, and this is what brings me joy, and this is how I can help contribute to the company. And they're not looking to say, do any more or less than kind of that. Why is it that always the people leadership? Like, because my father-in-law, he works for Procter and Gamble, and they have, and that's a huge company, but they have a technical leadership path, and then they have a people leadership path. And I remember talking to him about it one time, and he was like, yeah, the people who are on the same level, right, get paid roughly, I think, the same amount of money, right? So if you're like an individual great statistician or scientist, you're getting paid basically your equivalent of if you were managing, a team of 200, right? So do you think that this is just an example of, just CS being still yet immature in kind of their getting out into the economy, more and more companies are trying to adopt CS, or is it more of our people leaders currently, the current cohort that we have, they're just not formulating, a structure that's like that, or if there's any interest like that. So, I mean, that's a bunch of questions. You can take it any which way that you want, but those are just some of the thoughts I had around what was going on.
Yeah, I personally think it has a lot to do with the maturity of the customer success organization and just how personal it is to each individual company trying to implement an organization there, because depending on your size or what your customers need or don't need, I don't think there's been a common individual excellence path defined, because it varies company by company, whereas the leadership path is just much more clear. I can take it from other industries. It's probably already defined within your organization, and so we can just replicate what already exists. But I think the other side of it is really understanding your position in the market and what your customer success department needs to do.
Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing. I mean, it is so... all of us feel like we need to move up the management ladder, and I've seen so many people overextend themselves trying to do that. I think you guys have probably heard of the what's it called, the Peter Principle. Is that right? You guys heard of that? It's like when someone gets promoted up just past the point of their ideal level of competence, and they're frustrated because like they're not excelling in the role. They've had this track record of getting promoted, but they like hit their cap, and their cap is a little lower than what the job expectations are, which is not ideal for anyone. Similar to you, Brad. Actually, I've had the best implementation manager I probably ever hired. She used to manage a whole team, and she was like, "You couldn't pay me money to do that again. Like, I don't want to manage a team." But I think there's motivations, right? There's money, there's status, there's also just novelty. I think that was one of the main reasons I was interested to move into management when I did. It was like partially because like I was just fascinated by this idea of like building a big business and like taking the work that I was doing and abstracting it out to the point where like parts of the business could function without my hands-on involvement. And that kept happening every time. Like we added a new team, we brought on more people, and it was a fascinating way to keep finding new challenges for me. But it's not for everybody. I mean, there are plenty of other challenges you could be focusing on.
No, it is not. No, it is not. Because one thing that 2024, and I've mentioned this on previous shows, I talked to hundreds of people. Confidentially, and they tell me about what's going on at their spot and how their manager is either, we'll just say, being constructive or not. And it's funny. Some of the people that I've talked to before, there's actually a point in my career where if you've ever had a situation where you've had a less than ideal boss or you have a less than supportive C-suite of people, like there's no greater calling, I feel like, in business and even like the world when it comes to actually managing people. Because, if you go into a job search, like there was one point in my career I optimized for money, and I did it. I actually made $100,000 in my last job, which was cool. But it turns out that every day that I was there, I wanted to throw myself in the middle of the street, right? So I was like, oh, this is what happens when you optimize for only money and then you ignore all the other things that also make you happy. And so, that I didn't stay at that place. I just couldn't do it. And so ever since then, when I coach people, when I talk to people, I was like, identify your top three. So like for me, my top three is have to have an executive team that supports customer success. 2 is who is my boss? And then 3 is what is the team? What's the product? So notice that money is not even on the top 3. So that's mine. Everyone has their own, but it's really, really clear to me when you speak with people, whether they're job seekers or they're already in a role, the people that have clarity on like who they are and what they enjoy doing within the customer journey, whether you're doing all the way from pre-sales, onboarding, implementation, adoption, expansion, renewal, advocacy, whatever you're doing, you know, in that stack, you just have to kind of know yourself and know what is going to make you a really excellent player for your team. And if that's people management, then do that. If you want to be an individual contributor, then do that. And you know what? You're allowed to change your mind.
Yes.
So
Yes.
When working in technical support, like the best joy that I've ever had is, you know, when you're solving someone's problem and you make their day and they say, "Oh my gosh, you just saved me." I mean, there's no better experience, better joy that you can. That's you know, if you talk to people that have done that job, they know that feeling, that joy, and you can't explain it unless you've gone through it. You don't get that in people management. I mean, you might be able to save a problem. They might call you a mentor. They may say that you're the best thing that since sliced bread that happened to them. But that joy that you get from that solving that problem for a particular person is not there. So if you want that joy, if you want that high, then you're going to always want to work with customers. And if you go away, and even when I've been a manager or a director of customer success, I always want to have the pulse of my customer. So I always want to be involved in those customers. And I have a lot of people that once they get to a director level, they hardly ever talk to customers. They don't know what's going on. They're only managing their team.
That's right. And the highest engagement post I have on LinkedIn is the meme of the guy at the construction who's digging the hole and there's like 11 people on the outside. And it's like CEO, CFO. I had actually, it's like almost 3 million engagements on one of those, which it's obviously resonating because the higher that you get, you feel like maybe I don't need to be, dealing with customers is something that people used to do. So it's a meme at this point. But Meredith has a question, but what if you're one of those unicorns that is strong in both technical and people skills? I would say choose. But what does Jess and Rob say?
I say craft your own path. That's where I've found success, is finding out where, if you're strong at both of them, what brings you joy? What aspect of the role really resonates with you? And then is there a role at your organization or at another organization that offers the opportunity to really dig into that aspect of the role? I think know yourself and know what you're getting into.
She just answered her question, though, about she tries to tend to reframe who my customers are. And that's exactly what you can do. If your customers are internal, your team, or managing upward or working cross-functionally for customer success, they work cross-functionally, and you have to have those skills to work with your customers as well as your internal teams.
Yeah. I remember interviewing at a position, and I told my boss, I was like, really, my number one customer is you. Because nothing can get done if I don't have your support, right? So, and if I don't have your backing and your confidence. So I think that's important to understand. But when I was, I've also been a director before, leading teams, and I always looked at it like, because my definition of leadership is the ability to get results through other people. So it's like, I have my team. If they're not doing well, that's on me, right? So I looked at it as like, I always serve them. Like, they are now almost my customers, right? And I have a team of 10 or 11. I have to make them more effective, right? I have to help them do their job. So I think there's just probably too many people who have that old school of the other way around. And I think those people tend to talk to me and let me know. But so let's do this question. I'm really curious. So we've been talking about ICs to people management. What is, and I'm only going to limit you to 2. So what are the 2 skills in your mind that are absolutely critical? Let's just say if you want to proceed through the people manager role, you want to go from an IC to then you want to start being a people manager. What do you think the 1 or 2 skills are that you would absolutely require if you were looking to hire a people manager?
Why do we have to pick two, man? Come on. I think that's the first two that came to mind, and I reserve the right to change my mind because this is a bit raw. The two
Hot
that
take
came to
coming
mind,
in. There we go.
So I think the two that came to mind is, one is the ability to deliver and receive feedback effectively, and then two is project management broadly, which I think a subset of that is not just like the analytical skills that go into like what makes for a valuable project to focus on, but also like and like also structuring a timeline, but then also the communication skills that go into that. So I would have to pick those two, but I might have others.
Those are good too.
Those are good.
Yeah.
Those are good.
What about you, Jess?
I would say, to Rob's point about being able to take and receive feedback, mine would be communication under pressure, the ability to communicate under pressure, because I think that happens for people leaders, and it's not necessarily always an individual contributor skill. And the other one I would say is, I want to say like agility or creative problem solving, again, because a lot of times as an individual contributor, your role is defined. And as a people leader, you're maybe defining some of those roles. And so it's really important to be able to identify a problem and solve it with the resources that are available, rather than just function within an existing definition.
Like that.
I think the ability to motivate, and when I say motivate, it is understanding who and how to motivate your team. Everyone is different. Everyone's unique in the way that they motivate. So you have to understand the resources that you have available to you, and to be able to push them in a direction, even when it's like it's a bad scene, or, to keep that motivation high for good leaders. I also think that empathy and the ability to see that in your team and the others around you is very important. My two best management stories are coming from when I was in college. I worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the U.S. Attorney at the time brought everyone in, even us lowly law clerks, that would say and ask questions about who they are. They would spend 15 minutes, but he would also remember what those conversations were and say, Rob, what's it like to be working on your birthday, or understand the birthday? Or Jess, I know that you came from Arizona. Have you gotten back lately? Or Brad, tell me about what's going on with your family. Is Emmett still helping the girls? Those types of things, which was like, oh my, it would make you seen and makes you want to work for him. And then a client of mine was the CEO of a large worldwide logistics company. And he said that if he did his job correctly, he could be gone for 3 weeks. But if the guy who empties the trash is gone 1 day, everyone notices. And so he could see those people, that every single person had a spot in the success of the company. And everyone really wanted to work for him for the longest time. I mean, he was the CEO for like over 20 years. He was a founder as well. And so understanding that everyone can help him, that is this perfect way of motivating and making people want to work for you.
Yeah. Well said, Mel. I think if I had to choose two, I would just say clarity. And then, so nothing, like, you can't even operate if you don't provide clarity. And it's the leader's position to provide clarity. And going back to, last year when I'm talking to all these different people, I was just surprised. I don't know why you hear the same story again and again, but you do. It's just human nature. You hear the same story. Like, I'm talking to my leader and they don't know what the KPIs are. They don't have a clear idea about, what success looks like. And I'm just thinking, if we have people who are, say, great individual contributors, and there's no better way to see this than if you actually have some blue collar friends who are like electricians, and you take like my friend Matt, who worked at a company, and he was their best electrician out of 50. They're like, hey, we're going to make you the manager now. He's like, okay. Because they're like, here's some dollars. You're going to get paid $50,000 more. And then it was just a struggle bus. He knew nothing about managing people. They just thought, we're going to make you like a manager and you're going to know exactly how to manage 49 other people without any training or skill set. Like, it's total bonkers, but that still happens from time to time. But and then I would just say the second one is you have to be able to just problem solve. I tell people when I talk to them, what is the number one thing that your company pays you to do? And they'll be like, oh, this, or that action or this. But the answer is thinking, right? So like your ability to think and your ability to problem solve, right? But your company's really paying you to be like a problem solver and to think. And then when you start solving problems and you do it really well, people notice and then they start offering you other problems to solve. So, so those two would be super important. And then if you are a people manager out there, you're watching this live or you're watching this after the fact, I always try to give the pitch of like, please do the free things well, like that have been mentioned, like give compliments, right? Give feedback in private, praise in public. There's just, just look at my old content where I talk about doing the free things well for the manager. If you have a manager that's doing the free things well, you're already in the upper 75%. I think of people who have a great boss, which is really, really good. So let's give some advice here on some professional development stuff that people can do. So what do you think? Should people who are looking to further career and professional development, what do you think is the best bang for their buck? Or what would you recommend? Are you a big fan on like certifications, on courses, on finding a mentor, on finding a community, on hiring Rob and then just downloading his brain and then doing everything that he says?
The plug.
Yeah. So if you had to give some feedback to someone who said, hey, Jess, I'm a CSM, but I'm stuck in my, I've been stuck in my current role for 4 years and I'm ready for something new. What should I do? What would you say to those people?
Yeah, so I would say don't just blindly follow the next step. Don't just blindly go to the next step. First, look inside before you look outside. And like we've been talking about, figure out what you love about what your role, or maybe if there's nothing, what you want to be doing that you really love, and find that role or find someone who's doing that role and connect with them. I think just a connection with somebody that you can ask questions to, get more information about the actual role, just get clarity on what it is you might be pursuing, and then identify your gaps. And I think always be growing, always be learning and changing. And so figure out what you want to do and someone who knows how to get there and go do that thing.
Do that thing. You just heard it right there. Do it.
Yeah, that's the trick.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of 3 that I've worked on myself. Bronze medal goes to project management, like developing my skill set in project management. Silver medal goes to, and this is just me personally, this is not to say that this is prescriptive to everybody out there, but for me,
I like how you implement the medals thing. Let's
yeah. Totally unnecessary, but why not? But yeah, for me, silver medal goes to my analytical skills, my Excel skills. And it might sound really old school to some people listening to this, and people who say like, well, you can just use AI for everything now. And we're not there yet. So, but I think like honing my Excel skills allowed me to do things like build a financial forecast that then earned me a seat at the proverbial table, which we always talk about. But the top one actually has been sales skills, interestingly. Like I'm such a reluctant salesperson in so many ways. I think that speaks to a lot of us in customer success, but we're at this like juncture in customer success where like, we can't play patty cake anymore. Like, not that we were doing that before, I'm like exaggerating, but these roles that were built as like vague relationship manager roles, they're being forced to prove their worth by way of dollars. And it should sound somewhat obvious for everybody in the industry by now, but a lot of us aren't. A lot of us are taking the path of saying like, man, this sucks, instead of saying like, okay, what can I do to really get ahead of this? Which is like, take a course in selling. There's a lot of them out there. But yeah, I think a lot of CSM should know basic sales methodologies around like MEDDIC, for example, stuff like that.
Yeah. I like that list. It's great.
I think that if you're currently in a role to like work with your manager, what's your your last evaluation? What did it say that you're really good at? What did it say that you were not really good at? And kind of lean into those things and make sure that you're the best person that you are for that current role. And then also look at the clarity. Jess is completely right. What does bring you joy? And then lead into those. But also make sure that the things that you're bad at, to kind of still develop those things. Look at roles out on the internet and see what resonates with you, and then make sure that you have those skills and kind of continue to develop. I love people who are continually learning. I continually learn. I love learning new things and developing my skills and making sure that I know that I can do that work. So continue, lean into learning. I love that. I loved what Rob said.
And just one point to push further what Mel said too. I love how you mentioned, don't just focus on what you're not good at and where you want to grow, but what you are good at and get better at that. Because a lot of times we work in what we're not good at, and we kind of leave that happy place. But if you're really great at something, you can become the best at that thing. And there's benefit to that too. So don't shy away from leaning into your strengths as well as your weaknesses.
It's so tempting though. It's so tempting to focus on your weaknesses. There's good research on this too. Like, my personally, my academic background was in psychology, and I studied this like a decent amount when I was trying to figure out like what should my career path be, which for like the better part of a decade, at least from when I was like, probably 12 years, when I was like 15 to like 27, I was in such an imposter crisis in my head of like what I should do with my career, to the point where it would like make me sick. But one of the strategies I used is I was like, how do I keep investing in the things that I'm already predisposed to be better at, versus my like incessant temptation to focus on the things that I'm just not, I wasn't born for,
Right. Yep. No, I mean, this has all been, I think, really good advice. And someone recently told me, as someone who was trying to implement all these new features of Success Panda, and this person told me, he said, some founders run away from pain, some run towards the pain. And what he meant by that is like, don't run away from people who, churn after 1 month, or who send you that support ticket. And I think a lot of times it's hard to do, because you want to procure your own like happy environment. You want it to be like, oh, I'm good at this, or I'm good at that. But if you're able to, stand in the kitchen and take some heat, I mean, if you're that type of person, it can serve you well, because you're going to get a lot of really critical feedback. So, well, everybody, we are right at time. So it's been an awesome conversation. Do we want to share where people can connect and learn more about you? Jess, where can people connect with you at?
Yep, LinkedIn. Love to connect with people and keep learning from Migrate Network. So don't hesitate to connect.
Awesome.
Yeah, same here. LinkedIn's probably easiest. You can email me, hello@robzambito.com, or rob@mycustomersuccess.com. Just got that domain, so
nice.
Primo domain.
Nice.
One of my bad hobbies is shopping around for domain names, as some of my friends know.
Oh man, do you own successpanda.com?
I do not.
Okay, because last I checked,
whoever that is, we gotta find them.
Yeah, well, it was open last time, and when I started, I just didn't want to pay. I think it was like $15K. I was like, I'm gonna go .io.
$15K for that?
Whoa. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, it was crazy. So, if you want to make a donation for that, the domain, we can spin that up too. So, What about you, Mel?
You can find me on LinkedIn, but also check out successpanda.io.
There you go. All right. Well, Mel, Rob, Jess, it's been fun. Thanks for coming on the show. And everyone, have a great weekend. And if you have snow, go sledding. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.
All right. I ended the stream. Thanks for